She said she loves me, but she's not in love with me. And it seems like I've talked her into going to marriage therapy, or the shit's really hitting the fan. And she wants to go to marriage therapy. And I don't know how to handle this. So, this marriage therapy thing feels like a minefield. And Jeff and Cynthia, can you help me navigate this? And yeah, yes, absolutely, we can. We're going to talk about that here today, how to navigate the minefield of marriage therapy for a man, because it's different between a man and a woman. Therapy is. So here on the C Note Show with myself, Jeff Allen, and Miss Cynthia Kruse, we teach how to love and lead with mojo like a king, because she wants safety, inspiration, and sexual leadership in long-term monogamous relationship between a man and a woman. That's what Cynthia and I teach. We have for years. We do so in private practice and group coaching, and here, of course, on these calls. We love that you guys are here, or if you're watching this video. So I am going to get into these 7 points by the end of this call. I also have a particular book that I'm going to recommend in preparation, so to speak, for couples counseling or marriage therapy. But first, let's start with men and women are different. I want to start with the premise that men and women are different. I know that's a radical idea. We think differently often. We have different desires in the bedroom often. And so that's going to lead, and different desires for relationship, and that's going to lead to different goals in therapy. So John Gottman, sort of the grandfather, the godfather of current traditional marriage counseling and therapy, he and his wife are both PhDs. They've been studying in their, quote, love lab for over 40 years. 40 over 40 years. And Cynthia and I have taken both levels, 1 and 2, of their marriage therapy training as well. And so here's a quick excerpt from a couple of what things that he said. What do women really want? He wrote this book, A Man's Guide to Women, because women want different things than men. And briefly, this is one excerpt. Results from Dr. John Gottman's research prove a simple truth. Men make or break heterosexual relationships. This does not mean that a woman doesn't need to do her part, but the data proves that a man's actions are the key variable that determines whether a relationship succeeds or fails, which is ironic since most relationship books are written for women. We'll talk about that here today. And here's from the website talking about this particular book, Section 1, Understanding Women. We emphasize that every woman is different, but some general ideas are helpful. We reveal the one thing all women are looking when they search for a man, and that quality is trustworthiness. Trustworthiness. Our research shows that women's 2 major complaints about men are, number 1, he's not there for me, and number 2, there is not enough emotional connection. Men's 2 major complaints are, 1, there's too much fighting, and guess what? Number 2, there's not enough sex. Shocker, I know. Our research has revealed that to address all 4 of these complaints, men need to know how to do just one thing that women desperately need. He needs to be able to attune to her negative emotions. And in this book, he says he teaches that. So before I continue forward, Cynthia, okay, men and women are different. She says he's not there for me. Number 1, he's not there for me. And number 2, there's not enough emotional connection. Now, let's start with, so in your professional sphere, when you talk with men, when you coach men, when you work with women in your women's groups and coach women as well, is it common to understand that men and women are different? Because I'm going to get into marriage therapy here and the tips for that, right? So when you go into a therapist, they're not trained in masculine, feminine polarity usually. Okay. As far as counseling goes, they look at men and women are equal. We're all 50-50. So talk with me about that and what you see, that men and women are different and women's complaints are different than men's complaints.
Yeah, that does get to me quite a bit because there's very in-depth. I've done 2-year-long trainings working with certain methods, coaching, practicing with other women, somatic healing work. And I have found that it's a really big hindrance to women in general wanting to coach them in the desires that they have, including wanting to feel more connected in their partnerships, when they're really stuck on the idea or have had no understanding that there is polarity and there are differences. When the belief is that everyone's the same, women have a lot less empathy for themselves. They're often trying to push parts of themselves down. They're expecting the men in their life to act like them. The other side of that, when I hear men wanting to be super careful about everyone's equal and there are no differences, it's really hard for him to really see the soul of the woman in front of him, creating in her almost a starvation to be known and understood.
Yeah. So say more about that because he thinks men and women are equal, or because that's what we're taught. So we see that she feels starved from actually being seen. What is she hoping that he sees that's different when she's looking at him?
I don't think she necessarily knows how to vocalize this, but she wants to be seen as different, not in a measured way, but in something that's exciting and beautiful and deep and has a variable of emotional experience. I often hear from women who want to do work, who want to be in partnership. I want to be known and understood, but without like the awareness of polarity, they don't even know how to vocalize what they want to be known and understood for.
Yeah, good. Thank you for getting us started. Let's take a step forward into this. So from this particular article, again from the Gottman Institute, 4 typical solvable relationship problems. So again, solvable relationship problems. Some are not, which is a topic for another time. But this quote, any seasoned counselor will tell you that even the happiest couples have problems. In fact, Dr. John Gottman, famous marriage researcher and author of this other book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, has identified 4 of the most typical areas of solvable marital conflict: technology, work stress, money, and housework. So I'm not going to belabor these, but I'll share a few key excerpts that I thought were really interesting. Okay, technology is basically make a deal that you're not going to be on phones in front of each other. Okay, you're gonna see this make a deal theme within traditional therapy. So make a deal to not be on technology in front of each other. Here's the second one, work stress, bringing work stress home. I want to read a little bit of this because I laughed out loud a couple of times at this. So I'll talk with Cynthia about this, okay? The solution: discuss your end of the day routine with each other. Dr. John Gottman calls this the ritual of connection. Now, let me jump back here for a moment. What Cynthia and I teach, and by the way, if you don't know us, welcome. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. We both retired from the public school system in 2016. We were teachers that taught social emotional learning to kids of all types, especially kids that were challenged, that were adopted, that had learning disabilities, what was also called emotional disabilities. And then we started our private practice in 2016. So we've been doing this for a long time. And one thing that we've learned is, we want more than just friendship, roommate relationship. We want a polarized sexual lover dynamic within our marriage. And so as I read this, a lot of this is like friends. So let me continue. One of the amazing things about relationships is that our attachment bond with our partner gives them the power to co-regulate our emotions. Okay, baseline, true. This means when we leave our baseline state and are upset or sad, our partner has a keen ability to bring us back to baseline. Okay, how much are we now relying on our partner to bring us back to baseline is a question that I have there. On the flip side of the coin are couples who also intensify the already upset feelings, making it feel worse for both partners. So yeah, if your childhood shit comes out and you get triggered and you dump on your partner, it makes it worse. Okay. I'll skip ahead a little bit. This man basically says that now this is a different therapist, not John Gottman, who wrote this particular article. And he says he comes home and he hugs this woman for 2 to 4 minutes. So that's how this man comes home. A man comes home and hugs his woman to co-regulate for him after work for a full 2 to 4 minutes hug. Now, I don't know what he does if he doesn't get this 2 to 4 minute hug, but he says, usually by the second minute, my body relaxes and I let out a big sigh. At this point, now that his woman has hugged him, I'm ready to connect, he says. After I'm feeling calm, because he wasn't calm apparently when he came in the house, which is a big mistake in my opinion, we come together to complain to each other, about our day. During this time, we each get to complain about the difficulties that occurred, while the other person is understanding and supportive. This is formally known as stress-reducing conversation. Scheduling formal whining sessions can prevent the spillover of everyday stress into your relationship. Okay, So Cynthia, grown ass man comes home and needs a 2 to 4 minute hug before he can relax, and then he is ready to connect. And then they're going to have a formal complaining session, which is also, he's saying, is a formal whining session. And help me understand how the hell this couldn't spill over until their into their relationship. I'm being a little bit excited about this because this is a therapist in the Gottman Institute where you don't think that men and women are different. And so this sounds like a woman coming home and wanting a hug from her man to co-regulate, and she's complaining about her day, and he's there to be the riverbanks, right? He's there to be the oak tree that the leaves and the branches sway in the wind, but his roots are deep into the right. He's the lighthouse in the storm. Well, where's the lighthouse in the storm here? Talk with us about this from your point of view, your professional point of view. If a man were to come and do this every day in this formal whining session and such.
It feels like there's two parts of this because we could look at it on a very spiritual level three side where, and it's like archetypal, where the warrior comes home from battle and part of the feminine archetype wants to wrap around him and be home and sweetness and new life for him after he's just met the ruggedness of war outside. So there is that I don't think needs to be totally dismissed. But then the very human energy of this, the way it's described day after day, all I can feel in my body, imagining that myself as a woman, is just feeling like I'm the mom energy, like the young child's coming home. And again, can there be like sprinkling of that in romantic relationships? Sure. But over time, that really weaves itself into a woman's body of it can become hugely resentful in her if she's had a horrible day and she has to like regulate her spouse. uh it can feel like energy's being taken away from her without her permission, and that could again turn to spite, push away, not wanting to engage with any sort of sexual energy, uh, and just even protect her own energetic body so she's not holding that space.
Sure. And the healer archetype you were saying, when the warrior comes home and he's bloodied from war, he may not be complaining about his desk job. His arm is half off or something, and he just defeated the neighboring tribe. So her healer is important. Say a little bit more about that. She does have that healer archetype, but not for this type of not for this type of whining, basically. Say more about that.
Gosh, that's a great differentiation. I want to put out the word edge, like the masculine edge, that a woman can feel so honored and actually so seen and revered and understood in herself if his masculine edge trusts her to wrap some softness around it when he needs that. That's really different than masculine, like limp energy, which carries with it the how a woman feels about you in every sense of that word, that can bring up disgust in her. And that really pains me to say that because I always want to go back to we're all allowed to have pain and we're all allowed to whine and we're all allowed to find things unfair. But in polarized romantic relationships, that can just destroy attraction and commitment and trust on the woman's part.
Yeah, that's very well said. Take a look at the chat here for a moment. We'll step forward. Is that applicable to all cultures worldwide or mostly Western? I can't speak for Eastern culture, to be honest with you. And that's a good question. Even in lesbian relationships, there's more of a man in the interaction you described. Yeah, I can't. I'm not in a lesbian relationship either, so I don't want to speak to that. Those are great questions, though. Let's take a step forward. So again, this is the 4 typical solvable relationship problems as I'm plowing forward into what's the map so that you don't step on a landmine in couples counseling or marriage therapy. And what's marriage therapy for? So again, technology, you have a deal, not being on phones in front of one another. There's work stress. Now, below this, actually, Yeah, it's not on this page right here, but within this article, he does say, you can go ahead and take care of yourself first as a man. Go to the gym, process, work, whatever it is, work out, get in nature. And that's what you should be doing so that your woman doesn't need to co-regulate you like you're a child. He does say that after all of this. So I got to tip my hat a little bit there. Money, here's my point on money. Most arguments about money are not actually about money. So go beneath the dollar value to understand what money means to each of you. Before budgeting, take time to have a constructive conversation about money and discuss any financial gridlock issues. After that, take time to prioritize your spending and then lay out an action plan for financial freedom. So, this again is more of a roommate responsibilities, necessary conversation. But the point is, most arguments are not really about the money. It's about something else, the emotions underneath. And finally, again, this is one time I laughed. Housework. Okay, this is the number 4 solvable relationship problem. I want to ask Cynthia about this. Housework. According to Dr. John Gottman, women find a man's willingness to do housework extremely erotic. When the man does his share to maintain the home, okay, that's different than housework, by the way. When the man does his share to maintain the home, both partners report a more fulfilling sex life than in marriages where the wife believes her husband is not doing his share. How's that for motivation to get off the couch? So, Cynthia, what's the difference between housework and a man not doing his share? What's a woman feel? How does she want to feel like he's doing what? What does she want to feel like he's doing?
Yeah, it feels like today there's a lot of two sides to the coin because it is there a part some women can really be into acts of service as feeling loved. So they actually feel like they're being served, as in seen, heard, and understood what's important for certain parts of the house. But what's most important is that word share. And I think it's still that energy that you as a masculine presence have a kingly eye, whether it's out in the world protecting from the outside or in the home protecting there. And that eye is aware of keeping things safe, keeping the castle walls there and present, and not able to be easily pushed down by the outside. And women can get really tied up in knots about what a castle wall is and whether that's really important. But if we're talking about the energy beneath things, that's what she's seeking. And then there's nothing less erotic to a woman who the masculine is, you know, so concerned about washing the kitchen floors because that's her fear, and then has zero awareness to the outside world and has zero gumption to protect family and home. That's the opposite of an eroticism that's based in polarity.
Yeah, so there's many more variables here than just the housework or just that he's doing his share to maintain the home per se. It's the all of the emotions she's feeling about the relationship. Yes, this is one factor. And as we teach, there's 2 variables. There's one variable of comfort, which is her feeling loved and safe. And there's another variable of attraction, which to have a polarized relationship and to have attraction, that's what you want. You want sex and intimacy as well as love and comfort. So if she's not feeling loved, then that's not good. But if she's not feeling attraction is more of our guy's problem. That was something that I faced in the past. So I was doing all of this comfort stuff, like more around the house, doing everything around the house, doing all the chores list, making sure, but then there wasn't attraction there. So when John Gottman is saying that they find housework extremely erotic, I find that kind of fun. What other factor would you say is present here around how she feels about attraction, where this is just checking boxes for baseline comfort? So if there's this baseline comfort, she also needs to feel attraction. Say more about that. Like, why would she find housework erotic?
If it's just about checking boxes for kind of a surfacely comfort, the boxes will never end. It feels like the feminine gets very much into the I'm never filled up. I'm never satisfied. So the tasks always continue of her seeking to feel something from you. And that's that kind of tasking is her putting her frame around what masculine container should be. But she doesn't really understand that masculine container is your energetic presence in your body, your eye on her, and the space between you in relationship. Uh, you being present in the castle that you've created with her, uh, and you sourcing that depth of groundedness and presence and purpose in anything that you happen to do in the house with her, but more importantly, just in relationship dynamics with her.
So all of those pieces need to be there. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. So let's take a step forward and then we'll take a look at the chat. And we'd love for you guys to ask questions, especially if you're facing the potential of couples counseling or marriage therapy right now. So I'll blast through these and then let's talk about it. So one particular book I recommend, it's the book by Dr. Stephen Hayes, Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life. And he's one of the founders of what's called ACT therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, which is more of a modern style CBT. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. So this acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, is built on top of that foundation, which CBT is the most research based therapy in modern existence. Yeah. So if you're going into couples counseling, not only is this book good, defining your values as a man, giving you particular wellness practices, meditative practices, presence practices, but it also gives you a frame to when you're going into couples counseling or marriage therapy that you've read a book by one of the leaders of the industry. So you have that framing, you have that verbiage. Okay, so here we go. This is my list of 7, and I'll ask Cynthia about this, and we'll bounce over to you guys. Number 1, therapy, couples counseling, marriage therapy is for her to feel safer opening up. And that's a good thing. You're there so that she actually, let's say, tells you the truth, which a lot of the time she's afraid that you're going to have a negative reaction to because, and I'll speak for myself, because in the past you did. When she tried to tell you something that was painful or that you didn't want to hear, we push it away, we defend, we explain, we get upset. And so she's doesn't know what to do. She's afraid of opening up. Let's start there and then I'll cruise through the rest, Cynthia. Say more about that from a woman's point of view, where she may have tried to say some truth that rubbed him the wrong way in the past. And so therapy is for her to feel safer saying those things.
Yeah, I would say even a woman who puts up a lot of masculine shielding, she's very affected by your container in your sphere. And if she's been in physical or sexual relationship with you, even if it's just been a year, never mind 20 years, her body, her cells can't help but feel the flow and the desire to be the more the water in your riverbanks. If she feels kind of on shaky ground sharing something with you because she doesn't trust her own riverbanks, she doesn't not quite sure how you're going to handle yours, going to another environment where someone else is holding the banks allows her to feel like it's okay to flow without risking getting like the rug ripped out from under her or hiding some of the truth, which women do. And I don't want to say that as a bad, manipulative, dishonest thing, other than they still have that part in their brains where it kept them more physically safe to do that sometimes and not always be blatantly yelling in the face of the enemy chief or something.
Yeah, yeah. To be in certainly more physical danger than a man may be. Okay, number 2, in couples counseling, your job as a man is to be appreciative of her honesty and praise her for what you can. Meaning, if you're upset, if you're starting to get defensive or furious, you're gonna have a hard time truly praising her. So, what can you honestly praise her for? Can you breathe, calm down, be relaxed as you can in the midst of this? She's probably going to say things you don't like. Again, this is when she's already said things like, I'm not sure if I want us to stay together. I'm not sure if I've ever been attracted to you. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. You maybe have talked her into going to marriage therapy or couples counseling. This is usually in a very bad place. The relationship is drowning. and you're trying to save the relationship, so to speak. So often she has a lot of things to say you're probably not going to like. She might blame you, these kind of things. So no matter what she's saying, this is her truth. You don't have to agree, but the more you can praise her honesty and openness, the better, because that's what you're here for. You're here for her to feel safer opening up, even if it's painful, likely painful for you to hear. Number three, she does not want to hear your complaints. And so even if the therapist preps you or prompts you for that, then instead, I'll go to number five here. What you do talk about are scars, which we teach the difference between what's a scar and what's an open wound. And that's a topic for another time. We've taught on that before. We could teach on that again in the future. A scar is really your values. A scar is a well thought, hard fought value that you believe in now about yourself as a man, right? Let's say that you believe in providing for your family. You believe in honesty between one another, even if it's painful. You believe in, let's say, putting the grocery cart back in the corral. It's one of your values. Even when no one's looking, you'd go the extra mile. These are things that you've hard fought through your life that you believe in. So you share these scars, but you don't share your open wounds of anxiety because she does not want to hear your complaints. Say more about that for us, Cynthia. What is it if we go tit for tat with the whining session or the complaining in therapy, what's going to happen for her in her body and her emotions?
The thing that happens, and I was just feeling kind of like the ache of the moment of that. If she's sharing something with you in the moment in therapy, and then it's all in her perception, all she gets back is reciprocal complaints, it will feel like what she's saying hasn't really been heard. And so what she's looking for, the way the feminine heals the pains of the past, is to see that what she is saying is taken seriously in a way where it's just truly heard, like, oh, and like there's an empathy there, without it needing to be changed or altered. Now some women struggle to receive that empathy, and it doesn't have that complete cycle, but that back and forth, she'll never feel heard. uh she will feel like you don't get it, she will feel like you don't listen. And it either can bring up a lot of anger in her, feeling like there's a plexiglass, no matter what she says makes no difference, or it can shut her down, or it can bring up a counter fight mechanism.
Yeah, it seems when you're just talking there, it seems as though a woman intuitively opens herself to a level three, usually, okay, in relationship, meaning she's sharing her heart, she's sharing her soul, even if it's painful. She's no longer in responsibilities. Let's work through money. Let's talk about parenting. She's usually dumping all of her stuff on the table. And so for you as a man to try to logic yourself through that, she feels it's off base, like you're not hearing her, feeling her heart, or seeing her soul.
Yeah, said he referenced Jack Nicholson's Understanding Women, like take away reason and accountability. And that's taking reason off the table, that more logical mindset will help her feel heard. Because even though some women do fight with logic or claim they're being reasonable or logical, it's really the emotional impact that they're hoping will be heard and understood.
And why is that? Because they're wanting the story to unfold. We were talking about this yesterday. The story of a man and woman to unfold. Put another way, that we're split into a man and a woman so the universe can experience itself, so God can see itself. And we're trying to unfold a story together in relationship of one of seeing each other more deeply than money and taxes and parenting discipline. And it seems as though when a woman's in her feminine, even if she's very upset about it, that she intuits that. Say more about that for us.
Yeah, and that feels tricky because I know sometimes the biggest gift would be like, just show me your feminine, just show me your level three. I think that's, even though women can hide behind reason, logic, and masculine shielding, the story that they're looking to live through their body with you in relationship is is the emotional story. And so she believes that she's adding value. She believes she's surviving. She believes that there's truth to the emotions she wants to lay on the table. And we could say on a really spiritual plane, that's wonderful. She's bringing what she's supposed to into the pot of intimacy.
Yeah. Okay. Let's keep stepping forward. All right. Number 4. So when you're talking, if the therapist, the counselor asks you a question, you want to turn and speak slowly and directly to your wife. You don't want to necessarily triangulate the counselor. So think about the question, pause, speak slowly, turn and speak directly to your woman about your values, meaning what do you want? What do you see? Who are you as a man? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for yourself and the two of you in the future? Not sharing complaints, not sharing anxieties. Number 6, don't expect to seek approval from your wife or don't expect validation from your wife in counseling. That's not what it's for. You're not there to fix your problems in couples counseling. And number 7, build your own life because her desire must grow over time. Again, the couples counseling is not going to fix your relationship. That's there for her to feel more safe opening up. So you can practice praising her honesty and her openness. So all of this can be on the table so she can feel seen, so she can feel safe and trusting without you being defensive, without you trying to fix it. And all along the way, the whole core of all this men's work is to build your own life, and her desire for you must grow over time. It's not the therapist's job, the marriage therapist's job to fix that for you. What else would you say about this list now that we've gone through these 7, Cynthia?
Yeah, I love that this last one about desire growing over time, because that's such a tough one. Something that I really find women not knowing how to embrace in themselves is the cycle of things. Like there's a cycle of emotion that she could be. There's a cycle of being really angry in the moment, and then there's the sharing and emoting, and then there's a healing, and then that emotion can rest and go to sleep. I think women can get really stuck on one perception of this is the only reality. I've always been angry with you my entire life. I was never happy. And when you, as this masculine presence, recognize that there's cycles of time, that desire can build through time and have rises and falls as it continues on its trajectory. I have to believe that you're building in your woman a sense of relief and recognition of herself in that. There's a taking away that things have to be perfect, that they're either good or bad, black or white. And to me, that really allows the feminine to grow and expand and deepen her desire versus so many women get into this, well, I just got to get more masculine because then I won't feel bad or I'll never lose my sense of power. And if I just make various black and white rules for myself, I'll never get hurt. I'll never feel fear. And it never works.
Often we see that she wants to push into that because we don't know how to be the masculine container for her. We don't know how to have frame. We've just been trying to appease her over time. And I can relate to that as well and trying to check all the boxes of the man that we're supposed to be. But then she doesn't feel safe and she's trying to do that all of herself. Yeah, and so when she can go into counseling and be more open, when you praise her honesty, even if it's painful for you to hear, you're being that container in that space where she's being more emotional and more feminine, even if maybe it doesn't feel good in the moment to her. Say something about that for us, please, as men. Like we enjoy when she's being more feminine, even though it's emotional and maybe painful to her. And then she shuts down after the fact. It's like she
Mhm.
has an emotional hangover and closes herself back up.
Mhm.
Say something about that. What is that about with a woman?
Because she hasn't experienced that then there's another side to that vulnerability, that there is your container that can hold her and all of that, that there isn't punishment or abandonment or her feeling like something's been taken away from her. So it's I think therapy can be a way for her to learn that she can feel things that are really uncomfortable and then believe with you that there's another side to that. She can understand that there's not this perfect pie in the sky, we're always the night after our wedding feeling. She can understand that there's the ups and downs, and that's what's erotic. That always coming back around. And as a woman, being able to trust that the man you're with will always kind of foster those castle walls as things come back around is erotic and intoxicating and builds trust and helps her even trust her own self.
So that's the purpose of marriage therapy. Certainly. Let's take a look at, we're almost out of time. Let's make sure we get to our chat. I ran us out of time. I apologize. The castle walls concept really resonates, and I've seen so much of that in my wife. Underlying the emotion is a desire to feel that I'm creating a safe space for the tribe. Absolutely. Yeah, it can feel like the goalposts are moving, right? Never enough tasking. Yeah, that's why I thought it was hilarious that they find chores erotic. It's like, well, she already has to find you really attractive for her to feel that chores are erotic, certainly. Why are women so afraid of a male negative reaction aside from obviously violent ones? Are we not allowed to have a healthy disagreement with her, assuming emotional reactivity under control? What would you say to that? Certainly. I mean, what do they, first of all, we're often not quite as in control as you maybe think. And I can certainly relate to this. When I scrunch my face and look really upset, I think that I'm confused, but it looks very upset to the other person. So what would you add on to that? Like, can't we show our frustration? Do we have to be perfect? What is it about that? What is it about our frustration or our upset that's painful for a woman?
But I do know that there are some women who can take the I feel intimidated by your masculine energy and use that as a power play. So I don't, does not include that. What I will say is just the way women process facial expressions is different in my experience than men. And so, yes, the confusion in the masculine can look like anger to the feminine. And I just think her brain is more attuned to watching very, very subtle clues. And then you've got the combination of how she grew up and learned to process things like that. Uh, it's a nervous system thing, which doesn't need to be pandered to, but it's just one of the things that makes us different.
Yeah, that's well said. Let's see. Does number two allow the wife to just emotionally dump on us? Well, yeah, it looks like you're having a chat back and forth. How do you mean emotionally dump on you? Come on in with us, please.
What it means is that during the period, first of all, I'm not going to entertain couples therapy, but in any case, the a lot of the feelings and everything I was made to feel a little bit like everything was my fault. I was a tyrant. I wasn't this, wasn't that. I was responsible for the unhappiness over the past 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. And personally, therapy based on what I've been hearing in the groups and the like is really, it's going to be a rehash of that. And I have no desire to relive that experience. I mean, I can sit there and take it, remain calm, and, just exist, but I don't feel it would be beneficial toward any type of growth. So, I feel that if that were the case, hopefully the therapist would step in and say, hey, let's keep this on a higher level or something like that. But I mean, to me, that's not productive. It's
Sure,
just
I
a
agree. If
rehash
it
of the past. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If it were just to stop there. So to add a cherry on top of our discussion here, some therapists are good, some are not. Okay. And so if I'm you and using this list, number five, if I share my value, so let's say she dumps, you're a tyrant the entire marriage, you emotionally abuse me. And I go to number five, that my value is that I would empathize and say, that sounds horrendously painful for you. And I'm so sorry that's how you feel. I'm so sorry that you went through that. That's never been my intention. What my intention has always been for us to connect and grow together and build a family together and experience each other together through life, to love and to work through arguments and find strife in the world and heal ourselves and connect and be there for one another. And if I said that and then I shut up, right, and I let that sit in the space, she can either keep bringing up the same thing, or the therapist can take us from there. But if I just continue to repeat what I want, the positive values that I have and my positive intentions, and she just keeps dumping the same shit on the table, well, then, yeah, that's why we're here, to have a hopefully good therapist navigate and give us tools from that point. But if she just keeps saying the same things, then we can get past it's her not feeling safe. If she's saying the exact same things over and over, she feels safe to say them. The vast majority of what therapy is for her to feel safe saying things that she hasn't said before, right? And if she's just there to beat you up, it'll become obvious. You just say, like, well, I would love for us to find a way to heal this. I would love for that to be behind us, right? And then where's it? Then what would she say? Then where would it go? Hopefully somewhere good. But if she's just there to beat you up, right? I can't promise that therapy is going to be good, but therapy is there for her to feel safe. Yeah. What else would you add to that?
Well, the only thing I would say is maybe a 2 to 4 minute hug.
Yeah. I mean, if she had lacy lingerie on,
Yeah,
that'd
right.
be a bonus.
Now,
what I really love
I
is,
appreciate, yeah,
yeah.
I appreciate the explanation there. So thank you.
Yeah, certainly. And I agree with you totally. I'm not signing up to just get beat up either, right? We didn't talk about often. So, well, we need to wrap up, but sometimes she can escalate to a point where we do get upset because she's trying to create drama. It may not be conscious. It may be to give her an excuse to back away from the relationship. It may be so that she feels more safe not opening herself to you. She has an excuse to close herself off. These are all things that, we talk about and we've seen in other calls too, and we teach as well. But the point of counseling is for her to feel safe. And often she's not opened herself up. Even though you said you're not signing up for it, I agree, but you'd be surprised how she might say things differently in front of another person. Or you might actually be more relaxed and more calm in front of another person because there's a witness to what's happening. It's not just her word against yours, so to speak, with a good therapist, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So last comment in the chat here. Appreciate you guys being here. If she put you in a frame of if you're self-serving, aggressive, it's how she will contort your words, face, and body language. Yeah, if she's making assumptions and she's just going to pigeonhole you into something, then she might make the narrative fit that. Yeah, that's what happened in my marriage. Her reaction was wildly different from what I was saying and expressing. Perception is reality. Didn't matter what I was trying to communicate. Yeah, the second marriage counselor helped interpret what I was saying for her. It helped in that regard. Yeah. Again, there's good therapists and there's not good therapists. And our goal is for you to know that you've done everything that you can as a man, to learn your values, to feel grounded in yourself, how to build those castle walls for her to have space, right? And what would you add to close us out today, Cynthia?
Yeah, I really appreciate the different perspectives that are put out there, like, hey, she dumps on me, she pigeonholed me, she repeats the same things over and over. To me, the part that makes me just so gravitate toward your space, to this masculine energy who does this kind of work, is ability to see patterns and see the perception of that and see what's truly going on. Like, I see that. To me, that's that idea behind the kingly eye. And however you choose to use that information within your relationship or to end a relationship, I highly respect that, because to me, that, I guess, that's even helps me understand masculine honor even more. Stepping and watching and seeing things for what they are, with a curiosity, wisdom, because to me, the only good things can happen from there. And if your woman's lucky enough to be in that container with you, then I'm very grateful.
Yeah, that was great. Good stuff. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Ciao, guys.